Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it's significantly more than 53. That sounds right. 75 scholarships and then another 15 on their roster. Yeah, they at least have 90 players on their roster. It's crazy. All right. What's going on, everybody? I'm Ari Temkin, live at the Irishman Pub here at Preston and Frankfurt Road. Thanks for joining us for another edition of Showtime, your show, where we talk about the Dallas Cowboys. And what I'd imagine is there's still people willing and wanting to talk about last week's game, and I'm happy to do so and answer questions about it. I did have a chance to watch some of the All-22 film to give me sort of a better insight into what went down. I don't know nearly as much about football as, guys that play the game or analyze the game that are former scouts like Brian Broaddus, but certainly, when you watch a game live, you're missing a ton. So when you're able to sort of sit down and watch the All-22, which is the coach's film, you get a much better look and insight into what's going on. And, again, it sort of validates what we've been talking about most of this week with this team, which is that, it was a combination of poor quarterback play, some really bad coaching, and I also think one of the other things that I didn't really notice as much live, but they really, especially in the first half, their offensive line put them really badly behind the eight ball, because they just had a lot of penalties that ended up becoming drive killers, and gave up some sacks. So, I think it was certainly the quarterback missing throws, their schemes not consistently, making opportunities for Dak Prescott to complete passes down the field. And lastly, I think a huge piece of that, too, is their offensive line. Penalties, sloppy play from their offensive line, I think, was a huge factor of it. I'm Ari Temkin, live from the Irishman Pub here in Dallas. If you're in the area, come say hi. We're doing half-off appetizers here at the Irishman Pub. Carrie Teagle in the house. Carrie Teagle says Linehan's play calling wasn't so bad after all. Chris Bennett wants to know if I have a burner account. So I didn't. I heard that there was a report that Dez apparently had a burner account. Should we be surprised? Why are we surprised about that? Dez Bryant, he's so active on his own on social media and Twitter. So why would we be at all surprised in any capacity whatsoever that he'd have phony accounts that he'd be tweeting through? So I don't know. I guess that was my thought on it. Hit the share button. Post your comments. And again, as Eric Kashani says, it's Wednesday, so it's time to start looking ahead of the Giants, and I agree with that. Shout out to the Dallas Cowboys America's Team page, broadcasting live across the Dallas Cowboys America's Team page. Everybody hit the share button. Let's see here. What do we got? TJ Del Bruges, I believe that's your name. What's up with Dez and JJ hanging out? Dakota Stiegel says yes, but it's Dak not wanting to go downfield. Yeah, so some of you might have noticed that there was a picture snapped of Jerry Jones and Dez Bryant in Jerry's suite at AT&T Stadium watching the Beyonce Jay-Z concert last night. And, I think it shouldn't surprise you that based on what we've seen Dez tweeting about, Dez is clearly not a fan of Jason Garrett. And he's clearly not a fan of some of the guys in that locker room, but I don't think he holds much of a grudge against Jerry Jones. So that's all that was. There is absolutely, categorically no chance that Dez Bryant comes back to the Cowboys as long as Jason Garrett is their head coach. But, maybe the interesting piece to this, if we're sort of reading between the lines, is Jerry might have made comments firmly in Jason Garrett's position in his corner at the start of training camp, but he is making comments, whether through the media or through pictures and imagery, that he is not as firmly in Jason Garrett's corner as you might believe. Like, again, there should be absolutely no question that if Jason Garrett and the Dallas Cowboys don't make the playoffs this year, he's gone. And the fact that Jerry is seen with Dez at the Beyonce Jay-Z concert after Dez is calling out their coaching staff, after he's calling out specific players in that team, maybe more importantly, calling out their coaching staff on Twitter, which he did, to me that speaks volumes about that situation. I'm Ari Temkin. You can catch me on the pregame show and the postgame show for the Dallas Cowboys at 105 through the Fan. I'm broadcasting live right now from the Irishman Pub, Frankfurt and Preston Road out here in Dallas. Come hang out. Great food. Just had their house salad, it's tremendous. It's tremendous, the house salad. Tremendous. And yesterday I had this great sandwich. Again, it's important to point out that you go to a lot of bars, and it's just bar food. It's throwaway, right? Like, people come here to drink. But the amount of takeout orders that they have shows you just how good the food is here. So come hang out. They've got over 30 beers on tap. They have tons of great food, an in-depth menu. And if you come out and mention Phantom, you're going to get half off appetizers all week while I'm here. So I've been here all week. I actually got more light on me today because I brought a much brighter light, and I'm being blinded by this light. I'm like Manfred Mann. So there's that. It's Frankfurt, not Frankfurt. It's not the city in Germany. It's just its own road that is basically devoted to Frank Ford, I guess. But there's one. It's like as if Frank Ford combined his name to create a street. Tim Hasty says we didn't execute. Missing tackles, looking rusty. These young guys aren't good enough to make mistakes. Yeah, G. Garcia, who, by the way, G, I thought you were going to come out here this week and say hello. G, I want to meet you, buddy. Make sure to come out to the Irishman at some point this week. But he's asking about the newly signed offensive lineman, Xavier Suafilu, who was drafted by the Texans, had been playing for the Texans, but had been on the scrap heap, and the Cowboys picked him up. They released Kadeem Edwards. So, G asks if we're going to see Xavier Suafilu. I guess I hope not. You don't want to be cycling in and out offensive linemen this early on in the season, but I certainly to me, he's got better upside than Kadeem Edwards. So, look, the Cowboys constantly say that it's, talent acquisition is a 365-day job, and, that's what we're seeing. Let's see here. What else we got? Dakota Stiegel. But he hasn't tried, and I'm wondering if it's a mental thing or just not the right play calls. In his past 3 regular season games, he hasn't even attempted to throw more than 35 yards. You're talking about Dak, your brother with the same name. And then he says, I think the longest was 34, and it was incomplete. In his past 3 regular season games. Look, I would say it is fair to criticize Dak's unwillingness to push the ball down the field. And that was probably the biggest storyline of last season beyond the obvious ones. But, I mean, when you talk about when I hosted my radio show up in San Antonio all last year, you came in on a Monday and a Tuesday, and it was like, Why isn't he pushing the ball down the field? Why isn't he pushing the ball down the field? So, it's a reasonable critique. It's consistently been there. I think we did see games last year where he did, and he completed passes down the field, and he looked good doing it. But, I think, again, rewatching the film, looking at the All-22, I think the game plan was they wanted to neutralize the pass rush of the Panthers with, a West Coast style of offense, short passes, getting the ball out quickly. And because they didn't want long drops that took shots down the field. They wanted to really get out in front. And I think in some ways it worked. Look at the first drive. They had that bubble screen or the tunnel screen that they set up to Tavon Austin that got him 11 yards, but then that was called off because Tyron Smith was late getting out there, and there's a penalty. I mean, there were multiple penalties along the offensive line plus sacks, and that's the reason they were so far behind the chains consistently. So, I think initially when you watch the game, the biggest things that stand out are quarterback play and play calling. And then when you watch the All-22, the biggest thing that stands out beyond those two things is the offensive line and penalties and giving up sacks, which put them well behind the chains, which put them in really bad situations. So, I mean, if you're consistently at 2nd and 21, at 2nd and 17, and 3rd and 21, you're just not going to be able to do a 10-step drop. Kidding. You're not going to be able to do a deep drop and get plays down the field. But I with that being said, Dakota, it's important to note that, yes, this isn't just a one-game thing with Dakota Prescott. This is it's been there consistently sort of critique. So until we see him do it, it's a major question mark. And his ability to be a $100 million guy and to cash in a big way depends on his ability to consistently complete passes down the field. All right, let's see here what else we got. Kelvin Rockmore says, I agree. Richard Walker Talbot. What did he say? It's week 1. Let's reserve getting rid of Dak for a minute. Dallas fan from Bermuda looking for. Yeah. But again, it's fair to criticize the play calling. It's fair to criticize the offense. It's fair to criticize the quarterback. Because this has been a consistent question mark with Dak Prescott, especially last year. When you get those one-on-one opportunities on the outside, one, you've got to audible out of a run when they stack the box and take advantage of those one-on-one opportunities, and two, you've got to give them a reason to unstack the box, as it were. And the Cowboys really didn't. Millie Lev, almost every day, comments once, and it's always a good afternoon. It's always a nice, pleasant greeting. So, good afternoon, Millie. Nice to talk to you again. Eric Kashani says, lived in Germany for 4 years while my dad was stationed there in Frankfurt. I've been there. It's a beautiful place. What else we got? Broadcasting live across multiple Facebook pages. Shout out to the Dallas Cowboys Americas team around broadcasting live. What did you all think of Jerry being photographed with Dez at the Beyonce Jay-Z concert? Hit the share button if you wouldn't mind. Sharing is a huge piece of this, so please do that. Please take the time to hit the share button. Sean Moore in the house. Wade Zetterberg. Never mind, I got it. That's dumb. What's dumb? Sean Moore says, I'm ready to see this Giants game to see if we could find a way to improve. So that's the other question. So what did you all think of? And I agree. It's time. Wednesday is the official transition day, and we'll just do that every week on Showtime. If you want to still bring up stuff from last week, I might answer them, but I think at this point we've beaten the dead horse. So now let's move on to the Giants, who lost week 1 to the Jaguars 20-15, and actually kind of look at the numbers, and I haven't been able to check out the Giants All-22. That's my homework assignment for tonight to give you guys some insight into that tomorrow on the show. But the Giants seem to be – I mean, this could be tough. This could be a tough matchup for them, for the Cowboys. I mean, they've got Saquon Barkley. We know he rushed for over 100 yards last week against a really good defense in the Jaguars. They have questions about their offensive line, but they can neutralize some of their issues with their offensive line by running the football consistently, and that's what they did against the Jaguars. Jaguars, it's one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL. They only had 2 sacks on Eli, and they don't have a really good offensive line. So I think they were really able to to neutralize the Jaguars' pass rush last week with their effective running game. And they've got, it's not just their running game, guys. They've got Odell Beckham Jr., they've got Evan Ingram, who's a really good weapon. So, I mean, they've got a lot of pieces on offense. And then, of course, you look at that defensive front with, Damon Snacks Harrison and Olivier Vernon, and then Janoris Jenkins. I mean, this is a team that's, a far cry from their 4-12 record of last season. All right, checking out the Dallas Cowboys Really Real fan page. If you don't like the Dallas Cowboys quote-unquote really real fan page, go check it out. We're live right now on the Dallas Cowboys Really Real fan page, and there's no comments. So I checked in real quickly, no comments there, so I'll move on. Law Nation, check out the great work my buddy Lawrence Thomas, Law Nation Salute, is doing both on YouTube and on Facebook. On the Law Nation page, there's 12 comments over there. Robert Holm, Michael Smith, Mike James, Johnny Kaz, Vincent Bobo, Mike James. Robert Holmes says, LOL, your forehead is solid. I didn't even notice that I'm like in the middle of, here, I'll move over a little bit. No, I actually went to the other way. Whoops, this way works? So I got to do this. Okay, now there we go. I was kind of hiding my head by that nice logo of the Irishman pub up there. So I don't think that's why you're pointing it out. I think you're pointing it out because the light is so bright. But here's the deal. I don't have a happy medium at this point. I either have the inadequate light that I've been using the first 2 days or a blinding light that is not even like it's like barely open, and yet it's still blinding me and probably anybody behind me. So I'll go with the shiny forehead. At least now you can see me and I don't look like this dark peering eyes in the infinite abyss. Travis Banks says, bye, Jason and Scott. Troy even said it in the game that there's no creativity in this offense. Yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned yesterday that Stephen Jones said that everybody's an armchair quarterback or just another armchair quarterback when talking about Troy Aikman. And even if I did mention it, it's worth mentioning again. Stephen Jones, who I have a ton of respect for, and you should too if you're a Cowboys fan, because the Cowboys, the personnel department has been so much better in the last decade. So much of that is because of Stephen Jones. But Stephen was asked about Troy Aikman saying that their offense lacked creativity, and his comment was to call Troy Aikman an armchair quarterback, which Troy Aikman is not an armchair quarterback. He is an actual literal quarterback who is a Hall of Famer, which I obviously don't have to tell you that, but it's just a funny thing, obviously, to be calling Troy Aikman. All right, shout out to the Dallas Cowboys Report, broadcasting live across the Dallas Cowboys Report page. If you don't like the Dallas Cowboys Report, what are you waiting on? Go like Dallas Cowboys Report. Ruben Perez says, what's up, Ari Temkin? Do you think Dak's being too cautious when he's throwing the ball? Yeah, look, I think the Cowboys had been used to a guy like Romo, who was basically the offensive coordinator. So a play would be called, and Romo would walk up to the line of scrimmage, and he'd look at the defense, and he'd change the play. That's what he would do. That's what he did his entire career. And, so that's part of what made him great, Romo, is his ability to basically be an offensive coordinator and to diagnose the defense and then call a play. And so now they have a quarterback who's not there yet, and he couldn't possibly be there yet. So, I think that's the struggle between, having a quarterback that can diagnose a defense, walk up to the line of scrimmage, diagnose a defense, and make a play. Now, again, I don't want to make excuses for Dak. It's year 3. There are certainly calls and audibles that he should be making at the line of scrimmage, even in year 3. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know if he's tentative to throw the football down the field. He's worried about turning it over. If he wants to stay within the confines of Scott Linehan's offense, because that's what he's most comfortable with. I think it's probably a lot of those things, that he doesn't want to deviate a ton from the offense. And I think that's what we saw in week 1. They were kind of going with the flow of the game plan, which was a lot of east-west passing. They're trying to, again, not long drops to get the ball down the field. So Frank Torres wants to know if Dez is coming back. Not as long as Jason Garrett's their head coach. But, again, it's worth noting that Jerry Jones being photographed with Dez Bryant at the Beyonce concert at AT&T Stadium, which, by the way, isn't it funny? It's Beyonce and Jay-Z, and yet it's just the Beyonce concert. So, at the Beyonce concert. Like, Jay-Z is one of the greatest rappers in the world and in the history of the rap game, and yet he takes a backseat to his wife because Beyonce is a superstar well beyond Jay-Z. Anyways, I think Jerry, again, on Tuesday on The Fan, basically lifted up the Carolina offense and denigrated the Cowboys offense. That's a shot to Jason Garrett and Scott Linehan. And also, on top of that, he's photographed now with Des Bryant after Des Bryant has gone on Twitter to basically talk about how bad of a coach Jason Garrett is. Forget what Jerry Jones said about Jason Garrett at the start of the year. And understand that if you're a Cowboys fan that wants this team to do well but also doesn't like Jason Garrett, that this season is a win-win for you. I cannot stress that point enough. Brian Williams says, I think we're going to see the same results. Our coaches are the main problem. We have no play calling. I do think, again, there was a ton of onus on the offensive line, especially in the first half. I mean, they were really behind the 8 ball a lot in that first half because of penalties and because they gave up sacks. And so, it's funny because those kinds of stats sort of evened out a little bit, especially the penalties. Like, the stats for the Panthers and Cowboys were fairly even, which is kind of amazing considering, there's two completely different discussions taking place in two different cities this week, despite such a slim margin. But that really goes to show you just how slim the margins are when we're talking about the National Football League. Ruben Paris says, thanks for the input, Ari. Appreciate you, Ruben. And if you wouldn't mind, hit the share button. I'm trying to navigate through all these different pages and channels. Let me check out YouTube, and I'm going to go to the Law Nation YouTube page where I'm broadcasting live again. If you're on YouTube, make sure to go to Law Nation and like the page. Also, make sure to go to the Watch Phantom page and like that page as well. But Law Nation does fantastic work on Facebook and on YouTube. Let's see here what we got. What's from yesterday? Am I not on the Law Nation page? I thought I was. Maybe not. All right, well, I'm broadcasting on the Watch Phantom YouTube page. Nobody's watching, so why even bother? All right. Let's see here. Let's go back now to the let's go to Silver and Blue Nation. Gary Likens and Big Game James. You guys familiar with them? Producer G and Big Game James. You check out the Big Game James page, Silver and Blue Nation, and EBSN Online. Those guys produce a lot of great Cowboys content across all those networks and platforms. So Silver and Blue Nation, Big Game James, EBSN Online. Shout out to them and the people watching on that page. Also, again, a reminder, the quickest way to get a response heard is through Phantom. Facebook.com/Watch Phantom. I have my trusty iPad up, and it's always up on the Phantom page as I scroll through all these other additional pages. Let's see here. What did Diego Maestas wants to know if I think David Irving will be in football shape by week 4. I believe it would be week 5. He's got a 4-game suspension, and it's going to be tough. I mean, he did no training camp. So, it's hard for me to believe that he'd be ready to go by week 5. And again, and this is a point that Jesse Holley makes a lot to me on the pre- and post-game show. In fact, he did it so much, he made the point, so pointed that he actually, tackled me in the studio this past week just to really hamper home that point. But the point is, it's one thing to run and be in good physical, cardiovascular shape. It's another thing, when you are tackling somebody or going – defensive line, offensive line, engaged, in a block, trying to, that is a different type of shape you have to be in. So, I mean, you can work out, do whatever it is you want, but to be in football shape, especially as a defensive end, it's a whole different story. So, I don't know how much I would be counting on David Irving, especially when you look at week 5, which is the first time he could reasonably step into the lineup. And especially because, look, they've got a good rotation of pass rushers, so you hope that by the time Irving's ready to come back, they won't need him as much because they've got Randy Gregory and Taco Charlton and Dorrance Armstrong and a bunch of guys. All right, on the Silver and Blue Nation page, Dana Brenning in the house says, what's up, Ari? We just need to run the ball. That's why we got Zeke. When we run the ball, we get downfield more. Sure. But, you look against a team like Carolina that's so effective in their front 7, they basically stacked the box, and that forced the Cowboys to only give Zeke 15 opportunities. I mean, you think they wanted to run Zeke 15 times? Or you think that's kind of the way the game was dictated, that they were down by 2 touchdowns in the second half of that game, and they couldn't move the ball at all, so they had to push the ball down the field in some ways. Charles Ashley says, Dak played like garbage. The play calling was great. The scheme was great. Dak missed wide open players all game. I'd add the offensive line also struggled. And again, especially in the first half where you had drives stall because of holding penalties or block of the back penalties or giving up sacks. Alan Mems says hello. Hello, Alan Mems. How are you? Jenny Scott says, Jenny, New Jersey is here. I'll be in Dallas Friday to light some fire to our boys' asses. Well, that's fantastic. By the way, if you're at the game, which I'm assuming, Jenny, since you're coming to Dallas for the game, come say hello to me. I'm going to be broadcasting on the pregame show live from the AT&T Stadium, Miller Lite West Plaza. So, again, go by the Miller Lite West Plaza before the game. We're going to be out there starting at 4 o'clock doing the pregame show. So, Jenny, whenever you come out, anybody else that's going to be at the game, come say hi. We bring people up on the stage to take pictures, and so make sure to stay hi. Everybody always wants to take a picture with Jesse, so it'd be really cool if you're like, hey, I watch your stream. Then at least I can be like, see, Jesse, it's not just all you, because everybody wants to take a picture with Jesse Holly. Which, I get it. It's cool. He's awesome. She says, will do. Awesome. Jenny, I look forward to meeting you. Which that's kind of funny. You're coming out for the Giants game if you live in New Jersey. Erica Shaney says, makes a good point, which is that the Cowboys let Carolina dictate the terms of the first game. And I think in a broad scope, that's sort of what the Cowboys say when they say we just have to execute, because every team is built a certain way. So they are going to use their schemes to put together a game plan based upon the way that they're built. So when you can dictate those terms, you're going to win. And when teams dictate the terms to you, you're traditionally going to lose. Now, the teams that can become chameleons and can win in different ways, those are the teams that even if you dictate the terms, you're still going to be able to try to figure out ways to still win football games. All right, let's go over to the Big Game James page. Again, check out Big Game James, doing great work on the Big Game James page. And there's 2 comments over there, both from Joe Barrientos. He says, bling and LED lights laughing. Is it really that bright? See, I can't. Now I'm self-conscious. Now I'm too bright. Maybe close the door a little bit. I've got these they're basically like floodlights, I guess is the best way to describe them. There, but now I look like I'm in the shadows. Let's do it a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. All right. I don't know. It's the best I can do. Okay. It's a bar setup, so I need to get sort of a happy medium between my really shoddy LED light that I had the first 2 days of this stream and the big husky lights that I've got here. Sean Moore says, especially when you have a team that doesn't want to adjust. Carrie, you live in Houston, by the way, Carrie Teagle, right? You're in Houston? Are you going to go to that Texans-Cowboys game? All right, let me finish. Oh, no, I did Big Game James. All right, let me check it on EBSN Online now. Let's see. Shout out to the EBSN Online, Producer G, and Big Game James. All right, no, nothing doing over there. Where else are we? By the way, if you wouldn't mind, be so kind, hit the share button. I have plans. So they have the open locker room availability today at 1:15. So as soon as this stream ends in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to jet out of here as quickly as I possibly can to get over to the facility because I know Zeke will speak today. Dak will speak tomorrow. I'm curious to hear, the offensive line, after they get back at it. But, I think why am I more optimistic for week 2? Because, there's always excitement coming home for the first home game, which adds added juice. You're talking about a primetime game. I also think that the Giants' rush defense is not nearly as effective as the Carolina Panthers. So the Cowboys should be able to win, a little bit there. And then I also think that they can have some opportunities, hopefully by taking out, if you kind of isolate whoever's not, because I think beyond Janoris Jenkins, the Giants are going to struggle in the secondary. So, if they can get Cole Beasley isolated in a situation where he doesn't have Janoris Jenkins on him, I think they found a winner with that A little slant route that they used to run all the time with Dez. I think Beasley, they ran it well. I'd like to see more of that. So, I have a ton more optimism for the game this week because I think they'll be able to run the ball more effectively than they could against Carolina. And again, they should have more opportunities down the field because of it, especially, you might say, well, look, I mean, Carolina doesn't have a very good secondary. I mean, that was where they should have been beaten, and I agree. And that's certainly why we've hemmed and hawed all week about it. But I think when you combine the Cowboys' hopeful ability to run consistently against the Giants, then that's going to really open up their playbook as far as play action, the run-pass option, and their ability to make plays down the field. But it's one of those things. It's like, football is the ultimate team game, and it's such a cliche, but it's so true. Like, when things are going, like, when one thing's off, it's a domino effect. Everything's off. And when things are together and in cohesion, then it just all works. And that's why I think when a team loses, it's like we just think the world is going to end and we become so myopic because it looks like everything they try to do on offense doesn't work and now everything sucks. And yet, like you'll see in a game where their offense clicks and they score a lot of points, it's because they run the ball well, then they get that run-pass option going. And then now, because of that, now you got the defense on tilt, and it's the offensive line's cohesive and working together well, and it's just all those things working together, which conspires to make the offense better. But again, I also understand people's concerns about not everything's always going to be perfect. Teams can overcome imperfections to win games and produce on offense. So why can't the Cowboys? It can't just always be about excuses. So I get that too. Eric Koshaney says I'm going to the Tennessee game. That's going to be fun. I am not going to go to Houston because I do all the road games from the studio. The home games we do out at the stadium, but the road games we'll do from the studio. So, but my sister lives in Houston. I'm in Houston enough. Carrie will have to get a beer next time I'm in Houston. My sister lives off 610 in Braeswood, so maybe you live in that area. Probably not, but maybe. If you know what that area is. It's kind of by energy, actually. G. Garcia says, I'm not worried. We still go to the Super Bowl. G, I'm worried about you coming to the Irishman Pub. I'm at the Irishman Pub, by the way, as you can see behind me. I finally figured out the best way to position the camera to where my head wouldn't be in the middle of it. So I think I've done, maybe the lighting's a little bit weird. Look at that. It's like shadows. The lighting is a little bit weird. I'll give it to you. But, look, I'm trying to make this thing work. Like, I'll be honest with you. My background's in radio, so, like, I'm used to just, like, talking to a microphone. So all of the visual aesthetics that, like, have evolved for my broadcasts, you should all be very, very impressed with me. And G. Garcia says, we needed a slap in the face. Now it's time to go to work. That's fair, I mean, I certainly think people criticize the Cowboys for being entitled and having a sense of entitlement. I feel like people always say that about teams, regardless of if it's true or not. Perhaps it is true when it comes to the Cowboys. So maybe getting slapped in the face a little bit was the best thing for them. All right, what else we got going on? Post your comments, hit the share button. Let's get this thing rolling. I'm Ari Temkin. You can catch me on the pre- and post-game show for the Dallas Cowboys at 105 through the Fan or wherever you're able to. There's over 300 Cowboys affiliates across this great country. So wherever you can catch them, the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network, you'll catch me. And also, again, if you ever come out to a game, I'm there broadcasting live 3 hours prior to with Jesse Holly in the Miller Lite West Plaza. So always make sure to come by and say hello. All right, let's see here. G. Garcia says, Ari, I got to talk to you not about sports. I'll message you later. Interesting. Or again, G, you can come. G, it's you told me you were going to come out here. You didn't have to say you were going to come out here and get my hopes up, buddy. All right, let's see. What else we got? I'm sharing this to some groups right now, so if you all wouldn't mind, if you also could do that, that'd be fantastic. You don't have to share it to groups. Here's what you could do. You could hit the share button if you're annoyed by me constantly asking you to do so. How about tagging friends of yours that are Cowboys fans? That also works. The more the merrier here. And yesterday we were over 100 the whole show, which was really, really cool. All right, what else? Let's see here. Let me scroll back to the Dallas Cowboys America's team page. And again, if you are not following Dallas Cowboys America's team, Dallas Cowboys with America's team in quotes, you need to go like the page. as I'm part of the admin group there, we put up a lot of great Cowboys content, and, of course, this stream every single day. Curtis Stark says we need to make quicker adjustments. That's not going to happen, Curtis. Keith Stone also says, oh, I guess my memory's a bit foggy then. I just know that Romo sat for 4 years before starting. Truth. Joe Tranchino wants to know the health of Randy Gregory for Sunday's game. Great question. We won't know yet. I think their first injury report has to come out tomorrow. My guess is he'll be probable in the concussion protocol, but I will certainly look into that today when I get in the locker room. Great question, Joe. Buonasera, Joe Tranchino. Curtis Stark says, Keith, what's funny is, Keith, I believe I answered, I spoke on your comment, literally, as you posted that I'm ignoring your page. He does laughing emojis, so I know that he's being sarcastic, but I'm not ignoring this page. I'm just trying to be omnipresent on all these. I wish it would bring all of the comments across all these pages into one place. That would be really easy. Then all I'd have to do is scroll and get to everybody. But I can't. So this is the best I can do for now. Maybe at one point we'll have the studio where I can just see all the comments scrolling, and we can, like, somebody with, like, way better technology background than me will figure out how to do that. But until then, I'll get to them as quickly as I can. And a reminder, go to the facebook.com/Watch Phantom page, and there you'll get your questions answered as quickly as possible. I've got to make that commitment. So I got the iPad for that, and then on my phone scrolling through all the other pages. But thank you, Keith Stone. I appreciate you, brother, for hitting the share button. Oscar Medrano says, need the Irishman on the coaching staff. Me? Try to think, because I'm at the Irishman pub, I'm the Irishman. You don't want me in the coaching staff. You just want me pontificating on this stuff. That's what you want. Dakota Stiegel says, anything on Zach Martin? Was there anything of note? I mean, beyond the bone bruise? I think he's fine. I think you just assume he's good to go unless you hear otherwise. Ryan Ariano says, good morning, Ari. Have a beer for me? Here's the deal. So I've been here all week. I had a beer Monday and Tuesday. I figured I'd take today off just so I don't run the risk of, having a beer every day. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, 1-2 beers every day is fine. But plus I worked out this morning, and I feel like, I rarely work out, so I feel like if I drink a beer after working out, it kind of invalidates the workout. Keith Stone said I posted that like 10 minutes ago. All right, fine. Sorry, buddy. By the way, Keith Stone's a great name. Have I ever told you that? Where are you, Keith Stone? Here's the thing. I interact with a lot of you folks every single day, and some of you guys, I know where you are. I know that Kerry Teagle's in Houston. I know that Chris Bennett is in Austin. I know that G. Garcia is in Dallas. I know that, where are you, Erica Shaney? I know that Joe Tranchina is in Sicily. I know that Sean Moore is in Texarkana. Tyson, the West Coast Cowboy. What's up, brother? Did you just make that word up live on air? What word? What word? What word did I just make up? Tyson, were you at the game? You were at the game in Carolina, weren't you? And are you just going to travel with the Cowboys and go every week? By the way, everybody check out Dallas Cowboys Scouting. I'm sure a lot of you folks are following the Dallas Cowboys Scouting page. Shout out to Tyson, the West Coast Cowboy, who does phenomenal work for Dallas Cowboys Scouting on that page. So West Coast in the house. And what word did I make up? I probably did, buddy. Ryan Ariano's in Arizona. Where? Phoenix? Glendale? Dakota Stiegel's in Florida. Where? Be more specific. Dakota Stiegel said I meant Travis Frederick. Yeah. I don't know if you caught my podcast. The Cowboys beat last week, but after hearing from Travis Frederick last Thursday in the locker room, let's just assume it's going to be a bit before he's back. Although, Joe Looney played really well. Like, that's, Tyrant Smith had a couple of penalties. Connor Williams got beat a couple of times. Yeah, their offensive line didn't play great, but Joe Looney, I think, graded out probably one of the best of their offensive linemen, which is amazing. Phoenix, Arizona, Tampa, Florida, Dakota. I spent the majority of my life in Sarasota, Florida, not too far from you. I would say the majority of my life. My grandparents lived in Sarasota, Florida, so I went there at least twice a year every year. So I'm familiar with the Tampa area, Sarasota, Florida, the beautiful Florida Gulf Coast. So shout out to you, Dakota, and Tampa. And yeah, you guys will be good from this. I mean, I'm sure you'll get rain and such, but that's more of Carolina, and not the. I would say that maybe more the East Coast of Florida, not the West Coast, the Gulf side. Curtis Starks is in Tyler, Texas. Nice. This is great. Oh, Inglewood. No, I do not know Inglewood. Is that by Tampa? Let's see here. This week will be cool to see Zeke versus Barkley. Longview, Texas. Wish I could come hang out, but I live too far away. Where is Longview, Texas? I know Tyler is like 2 hours from here, right? Grew up in Pensacola. I've been to Pensacola, Florida once. I felt like I was in Alabama. Are you in, Neil? Are you still in Pensacola? Sean Moore says, I'm okay with Frederick taking as long as he needs. If it's all year, I'm fine with it. I agree with you, dude. I agree with you totally. Tyler Cutright is in Casper, Wyoming. What word did I say? Pontificate? Pontificate's a word, if that was the word you're talking about. From to West Coast. And West Coast, are you going to be at the game on Sunday night? Sean Henry's in El Paso, Texas. I've been all over Texas, but mostly like the central portion of Texas. I used to live in Austin. I lived in San Antonio. Live in Dallas now. So like I haven't ventured east or west, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I'm just like straight down Texas, basically. Hour south of Tampa. Wiley, Texas in the house. Where's Wiley, Texas? It's funny because my dog is named Wiley, and I've seen Wiley, Texas, signs for it and people talking about it. I don't know where it is. And I could look on a map, but I'm not going to. Marcus Turner says Alabama. Nice. This is cool. Getting a good yeah, Kerry Teagle says make sure to follow Dallas Cowboys Scouting as well. He brings that fire. No question. And Kerry, thank you for posting that, but I agree. Everybody follow Tyson, the West Coast Cowboy, Dallas Cowboys Scouting. Guy kills it. Yeah, I'll be at the game. Never mind, I just learned to do wood. Well, Tyson, it's funny because Tyson and I have been friends for a while now. I mean, Tyson was what we got going. I mean, Tyson and Phantom had a partnership early on, and we were in Oxnard at the same place, and I walked past him as he was interviewing Sean Lee, so I didn't want to get in the way. But what I'm saying is Tyson and I have never met in person, despite the fact that we talked a lot, and at least let's make it happen on Sunday, shall we? Tyson, I'm doing the pregame show from the Miller Lite West Plaza, so I'll be there from 4 o'clock all the way till kickoff. So come say hello. I'd love to see you, and I'll introduce you to Jesse Holly. He'd love to meet you too. And I'll tell him all the great work you're doing. What's the best restaurant I've had out in Dallas? That's a great question. I'm trying to figure where are you staying when you're here? Are you going to stay out in Arlington? Are you going to stay in downtown Dallas? There's a lot of good places in like Lower Greenville area. A lot of cool places. Actually, right by the studio of 105 to the Fan, which if you're familiar with Dallas, Central 75, the highway, Central 75, and what's called Knox Henderson, that exit. So over there, like that area, there's tons of great restaurants over there. But also, the Irishman Pub has fantastic food. I've been talking about it all week as I've been here. I had this great sandwich yesterday. I had a phenomenal salad today. So if you're able to venture up north, Preston, Frankfurt, the Irishman Pub, over 30 beers on tap, great food. I had never been to this place, but the food here is fantastic. Fort Worth area, the Fort Worth Stockyards, dude, barbecue. It's some of the best barbecue you're ever going to have. Go to the Fort Worth Stockyards, dude. Go anywhere there, and you'll be fine. But if anybody that's watching this lives or is, I'm not too familiar with eating in Fort Worth, I'll be honest. So if anybody has any better insight into that, help Tyson, the West Coast Cowboy, out. All right. That was a good aside for a moment there. Wiley is 30 minutes from the stadium. Nice. Steve Easton's from San Jose, California. North of Dallas. Longview's 45 minutes from Tyler. This is a good. I'm not going to remember anything. I will remember Wiley because Wiley's my name, my dog, the name of my dog, and I've seen a lot of people. I've seen signs for Wiley, Texas. But Brian Walker says Odell Beckham had 100 yards in the Jaguars, and so did Saquon Barkley. So, and thank you, Brian Walker, for getting me on task. Although, again, please, everybody, tell me where you're watching from. Have I had Hutchins Barbecue? Is that in the Stockyards? Because I've been to multiple places in the Stockyards, and I can't tell you the name of any of them. But it's basically like walk into any area in the Fort Worth Stockyards, and you're going to have fantastic barbecue. Although I will say my favorite Texas barbecue is Lockhart, Texas, which is 25, 30 minutes from Austin. So probably about 3.5 hours from Dallas. But Lockhart, Texas has the best barbecue I've ever had in Texas. And I've had Franklin in Austin and Salt Lake in Austin. I've had, Lockhart. I've had the Stockyards. I've had a lot of the good places. So Curtis Stark says my barbecue's better. Everybody thinks that. Brian Walker says from Gilbert, Arizona. Nice. All right, so the Cowboys' defense against the Giants' offense. So, and Brian, thank you for bringing up the fact that Odell Beckham had over 100 yards receiving. Saquon Barkley had over 100 yards rushing. And that the Giants were in pretty good position to win that football game, if not for a few mistakes from the offensive line, if not a few mistakes from Eli Manning. So, I think some of the questions about Eli Manning from last year, was it the offensive line, the lack of weapons, or was it Eli? And I think, at least after 1 week, it looks like there could be some issues with Eli Manning, the quarterback, which it's kind of funny because they passed up every quarterback in the draft, right? Who's the number one pick? Why am I forget? I mean, who was the number one pick in the draft? Because Darnold was 3, so they passed up Darnold, who looks like the best quarterback in the draft so far. So that'll always be funny, by the way. As good as Saquon Barkley is, if Manning has this great regression and continues to slide, now all of a sudden the Giants are going to think, what if we had Darnold? And it's even better. It's great for Cowboys fans, obviously, but it's even better for Jets fans because they could have had him, and now he's in the same city. Wade Zetterberg says, the Golden Ox in Kansas City is the best barbecue, and I live in Indiana, so I'm not at all biased. Ask Josh Briscoe. I think Josh agrees with me. Oklahoma Joe's in Kansas City is the best in Kansas City. But I prefer Texas barbecue because Texas barbecue is more about the meat than it is about the sauce. Whereas Kansas City barbecue is more about the sauce. And probably most other barbecues are more about the sauce and the type of sauce. Whereas, again, the Texas barbecue is all about the meat. All about the meat. Mate Baker. Yes, thank you. Tyson. I don't know why I forgot that. So, yeah, I mean, it'll be really funny if Darnold becomes the next great quarterback and the Giants passed up on him, especially if Eli continues this, which he will. I mean, it's not. I guess it's not a matter of if he continues to regress because he's getting older. Like, that's, age is undefeated. And it wasn't like he was this unbelievable quarterback, at any point anyways. He just played really well in the playoffs a couple of times and has a couple of Super Bowls to show for it. He's like the opposite of his brother, who is statistically the greatest quarterback ever, and yet only has 2 Super Bowls, and one of those was in spite of him. It was because their defense was so good, and he was horrible. And yet, Eli, it's like, he's had 2 Super Bowls, and he hasn't even been a great quarterback over the course of his career. It's kind of insane. Let's see here. Eric's an hour from Kansas City. Eric, did you point out where you lived, Eric? I didn't know if I got where you live, Eric Kashani. But hopefully if you live an hour from Kansas City, you are a Jayhawk fan. And I will take no other answer than that, Eric Kashani. Dakota Stiegel says, Brown can't take OBJ. I say he goes on Shepard. Well, no, they're going to – they've got Cheeto. Now, this is going to be the interesting thing. They didn't really have there's the question of will Cheeto travel, right? Like, are they going to just put their number 1 corner in Cheeto on the opposition's number 1 wide receiver, or will they just, wherever those guys line up, it's whatever matchup it is. So I guess I'm willing to bet Chris Richard's the kind of defensive coordinator, and I'm going to call Chris Richard the defensive coordinator a lot. Because I think he's got such a huge input. He's got such a huge piece to the coordination of the defense. I'm willing to bet that Cheeto's going to travel around with OBJ. That they're going to just put Cheeto on OBJ for the majority of the game. And that's not going to I mean, he could still go off is kind of it. So, they're going to have to figure out – the linebackers are going to play a huge role, obviously, in limiting Saquon Barkley. And then the second piece to that is their quarterback, or their pass rush. I mean, they've got a really good opportunity there against Derek Flowers on the right side, with Randy Gregory if he plays and the rotation of pass rushers they have to really, get after Eli Manning. But, even if they don't sack him, just getting pressure on him, forcing him into bad throws, that's going to be such a huge piece. Hutchins Barbecue is one of the top 50 places in the United States. All right, what else we got? I'm trying to get your questions in now, everybody, because I need to get out of here because at 1:15 Central, so in about 20 minutes from now, the Cowboys locker room opens, so I've got to get some of these questions answered. Dakota says, Ari, thoughts, please. Will they let OBJ go man-to-man or Cheeto then, or have a man over top for safety? I mean, I think they'll go man-to-man because I think they're going to be worried about, putting too much on Odell and then leaving themselves susceptible in the running game. Kayvon Frazier, I think, played pretty well at times in week one, getting into the box and making plays when the linebackers couldn't clean it up. And so if you kind of take – say Jeff Heath out of play, then now this makes, Kayvon Frazier have to cover the majority, 75% of the field now. So, obviously they want, to be able to cover Odell with just one guy, but, I guess I would say put Cheeto on Odell and see what happens, and really, for me, I'm about limiting Saquon. To me, that's the most important thing. If you really want to take one of those two, Odell or Saquon, I'd rather take out Saquon because I'll take my chances with the opportunity with my pass rush if they try to win this game through the air. Plus, I'm not gonna trust Eli enough. So, if I've got to pick my poison, which one am I bailing out to stop? It would be Saquon. So, and to that end, I'm going to put Cheeto on Odell and see what he can do. Yeah, Sean Moore says they're going to expect their front four to put enough pressure on Eli to make man-to-man work. Yeah, I agree with that. Kerry Tingle says, y'all need to check out the clip of Flowers last week. He missed the block and flat out tried to trip. I think didn't he trip the guy? Yeah, Eric Flowers is not very good. I mean, their offensive line was you remember the Giants' offensive line was so bad last year. It was one of the worst in football. And it's better this year, and I think it's also improved because of Saquon and the running game and what that's able to do. Steve Eason says if they part with ways with Garrett, I've heard Pages talk about Chris Richard or Lincoln Riley. Well, Steve, you might have heard me talking about that, but you look at the guys that are most successful in the modern NFL, or you look at the I wouldn't say that. You look at how the trend is going. It's smart, innovative, young offensive minds. That's why I like Lincoln Riley. He'd be my number one. But I also like Chris Richard. I like his mentality. I like his attitude. I like his demeanor. I think he's got great leadership characteristics. So, again, if the Cowboys don't make the playoffs, Jason Garrett's going to be out. And then you start amassing a list of guys you think would be great for being the next head coach. All right, I want to thank everybody for being a part of the show today. Sean Moore, Eric Koscielny, Kerry Teagle, Wade Zetterberg, G. Garcia, Chris Bennett, Tice the West Coast Cowboy, Tyler Cutright, Dakota Stiegel, Steve Eason, Mark Rawson, Curtis Starks, Neil Favre, Brian Walker, everybody that comments every day, that shares, that helps me spread the word on this show. Thank you. All you folks for doing that. Thank you for being a part of this show each and every single day. I really appreciate it and couldn't do it without you. I'm back tomorrow. Again, if you live in the area, please help support Phantom and support our advertisers. The Irishman Pub, Preston and Frankfurt. If you come in here while I'm not on the show, make sure to mention Phantom that you heard about. Tell the bartender, tell the server you heard about the Irishman from Phantom. And you can use your half-off appetizer, which you can find in the description for this exact post. So the Irishman Pub, great food, over 30 beers on tap, great selection, great food, great ambiance, great place. If you're a soccer fan, they've got the Tottenham games, and this place gets rowdy. So that's a lot of fun. So the Irishman Pub, Preston and Frankfurt out in North Dallas. Again, I'm back tomorrow. I'll have some pretty good insight because I'll be in the locker room today after this, so I'll give you some pretty good insight tomorrow. So make sure to join the stream tomorrow. And again, if you're in the area, come hang out with me, say hello, and be a part of the show each and every day. All right, but for now, I'm out. Peace.